You might remember a while ago I did a video on compost bins and I was going to do a couple more. I completely forgot about the other ones and I just reminded myself about it. Now this is another compost bin that I wanted to show you. It's basically a contained compost heap, and what reminded me was the people that own this property asked me to come and have a look and just see what was going on with their compost bin. They said it wasn't working too well and yada yada yada. So I'll get behind the camera and I'll pan around, I'll show you different things, and I'll give a bit of an explanation in my eyes why it's just not composting very well for them. Alright? Now this is the bin, the granddaddy of all compost heaps. Now they've just used old railway sleepers to make that. They're about 250 wide, so you're probably looking about 750 high, or just under a metre high all around, and they've just used some straw bales just there for separating it for some reason. I'm not too sure, but let's have a look. Right, now the first thing that appears to me with this is that it's really dry. Compost bins don't have to be wet, but they do like a certain amount of dampness. Depends what you're putting in it for it to break down. Now it's not getting any heat either. Look, again, you don't have to have it in a hot spot for it to break down, but it does help if it's in a sunny spot. It's under this massive cypress tree, which cypress, they can be a bit kind of harsh. The root system and the foliage can be a bit kind of toxic as such to the surrounds. They tend to kill off everything around them for their own survival. So everything that's dropping on this is adding a certain level of acidity to it too. So I wouldn't really, I'll pan back in a second, I'll show you the tree. The other thing I can see all that? See how woody it is? Now I could just snap some of those branches, they're about 5mm thick. And it's not going to break down in our lifetime. So unless you want it to break down really coarsely and then use it as a mulch around trees, some kind of surface mulch, that's fine. If you want to break this down to use it in your garden to replace nutrients and dig it in, it's just not going to happen. It's just too coarse. I think it's always a good idea for people to have two styles of compost heaps or bins at home. One for the kitchen waste and vegetables, all that kind of stuff, bread, all that stuff. And then another one that's purely just for garden waste, your clippings, all that kind of stuff. And try and layer things a bit too, you know, so there's not so much a massive big pile of lawn clippings and then a few leaves, and then, you know, it's just too thick. You want worms and insects to get in there and break it down, and if it's too thick of one thing, it's just too much for them. They just won't get through it and break it down and turn it into compost. So it's too dry. What they're composting down is just too thick and woody. They've got a couple of other bins here you can see. Now I recommend these kind of bins, I think they're good. So I don't know what they've got in there, I'll have a squiz in a sec. But look, it's a really nice kind of area for it. But I'll pan back. But it's really not enough water, it's dry as a bone. They're trying to break things down that are just too thick. And it's under a big cypress tree, which is no good. There you go, you can see it. There's a certain, you know, toxicity, for lack of any other word, in that tree. It's sheltered from the sun, it's sheltered from the rain. Too dry, too woody. It's just not going to break down. So if you're having any issues with your compost or anything like that, you know, one of these might be the actual reason. Try and keep it, you know, simple, turn it over regularly, try and layer it with different things so everything gets a fair go. Try and introduce some moisture into it, a little bit of heat, even though that garden waste should be hosed down a little bit when you're watering the garden to help them break down. Kitchen wastes are generally pretty wet as they are, like your peelings and all that kind of stuff, so generally they don't need to worry about it. And try and keep things like citrus peel, eggshells, that kind of stuff, keep them out. They just won't break down really well. Everything else will be fine. So unfortunately, even though they've built this nice compost heap, I wouldn't have put it there, and if I had the choice I'd move it. But it'll do its job, it just won't do it as effectively as if you put it somewhere else. So there you go. So that's another compost heap. I had the compost bin in the first video, and now I've got this compost heap. Pretty elaborate little compost heap. And I'll try and do another one too. I've got someone else, I know someone else has got a compost heap in a different kind of scenario that I want to show you guys too. So you've got to keep a little bit of heat, some moisture, you know, layer it, and it should break down nice. It should break down to fine cake, like chocolate cake that you've broken up, dark and thick. Alright. Thanks for watching, I'll see you again soon.